Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show. I'm Laura.
And I'm Angie.
Hi, Angie. I'm so
Hi.
glad we're doing this today. Angie and I are sharing an episode today. And so, hello. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm Laura. I'm the host of the That's Where I'm At podcast. I'm a podcaster, speaker, and author, and I speak on narcissistic abuse. So, we're going to have a really good conversation about that. Tell us about yourself.
Um, I'm Angie. I am a lifestyle and health coach and a potential podcaster as I am getting ready to launch my podcast and trying to get as many episodes recorded so I can get everything launched and it be just well done.
I'm so excited for you. That's
Yeah.
so good. And what are you going to be talking about on your show?
All things health. I am, like I said, a lifestyle coach. I started off really obsessing in my life about nutrition and fitness. And as I am coming out of this narcissistic relationship of 20 years,
Mm.
realized that I have been trying to find validation within myself through my looks and putting
Oh,
all the
okay.
work in that I didn't put any um, effort into the mental aspect of it. So, coming out of a narcissistic relationship, there is a lot of things that go on that set off light bulbs for you that you need to start a whole healing process.
I'm telling you. And then, so were you with a covert narcissist or overt narcissist?
I so covert are the ones that are explain them for me.
So the covert one is more, okay, that's what I was married to. And he was one way behind the scenes and then another. So at home, he was doing the abusing. And then out in public, other than things like dog whistling where people didn't realize he was abusing me or whatever, everybody thought he was such a nice guy and everybody thought he was so great to the point where like some of my friends don't even, only a few of my friends, but some of my friends didn't really believe what was happening when I started talking about it because they're like, he's such a nice guy. And I'm like, yeah, but at home. So that's what they're covert. They're like undercover, they're insidious. And then the overt ones, are the ones we might think of like when like someone who's running our country and they're just very out there in your face saying I love myself and I'm so great and they're just like everything's about me where you truly know that there's a problem and that they're a narcissist. What people I think of as a narcissist a lot of times because I didn't know. I don't know if you knew or understood. If you stayed 20 years, you're probably in the same situation I was, where I didn't really know and I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, I had no clue. I kind of feel like he was a mixture of both
Yeah.
because it was one of those things where I didn't really see the abuse until after I was
Yeah.
out of the relationship.
Yeah.
But everyone around me saw a part of him that I couldn't
Oh,
see. It
okay.
was almost like we never really had friends or people that wanted to hang out with us because of him.
Oh, that's interesting. Was
I
he
was
like,
cool, but he was kind of like status, look at me, kind of
oh, okay.
the overt part. But on the outside, you would have thought we had a really good relationship.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even I
And
did until I realized the mental and emotional aspect of the abuse after
yeah.
it was over.
So did you guys break up or get divorced or whatever it was? And then you realized after that that something had happened?
So we split up, and this was by his choice. And we were going through this. He drew it out in this long separation,
Hmm. Okay.
making it sound like he wanted to fall back in love with me again. He wanted to date me, kind of like we lost something and he wanted to find it when essentially he was looking for it in my friend. And if that didn't play out, then he had me still there to,
Yes.
because I was so broken
Yeah.
and vulnerable.
Right.
So it was a drawn out, very toxic, evil separation. There was
Yeah.
so much gaslighting and so much manipulation.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like he had on punching gloves and he kept like punching me over and over and over. As soon as I would start to get good, and it was just
Yeah.
mean. It was
Yeah.
mean. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, he he moved out. Um, it was January 1st of 2021, right after COVID.
Hmm.
Came back Valentine's Day and then stayed like we were okay for 6 weeks, but the day we put our paralyzed dog down
Hmm.
is when he asked me to move out. So it would be like he would wait for instances when I was down and then kick me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's horrible. Yeah, they're definitely that way. It's funny thinking back to me like when he would treat me, minimize me, treat me like crap, all those things, and then be like, God, you're just no fun to be around. And it's like, oh my God, I was like so depressed, like I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go do things, those kinds of things. And then he'd go like, God, you're just no fun anymore. I'm like, I'm over here in survival mode, but I didn't really know what narcissism was until like almost the end and really after, because like I knew something was happening and I had heard the word gaslighting, but I didn't know what it was and I didn't really understand, and I was like, you're gaslighting me. And he's like, what are you even talking about? I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, okay, you just gaslit me, and I didn't even know. But until after, as soon as I found out a few months later that he had been with his friend, who he said was just a friend, they were together, and I just all of a sudden, like the blindfold came off and I started unraveling and I saw videos on narcissism. And I'm like, oh, this makes so
Mhm.
much sense. And so, like, you could identify every single thing, right? Like, there's literally things in the middle of the night I would wake up and go, oh my God, that was a lie. That was a dog whistle, or that was him manipulating me, or whatever, or gaslighting me. Because like with the gaslighting, that drove me insane, which it's supposed to. That's what gaslighting is for, is to drive you insane. I swear I would be like, no, I swear you said that. No, you said we were going to do that. No, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just believed him. I mean, I was with him 33 years, so of course I believed him.
Yeah, they spend all of that time creating doubt within you. And same, my story is the same. I would hear narcissism.
Yeah.
I've done hair for 25 years and I had this
Oh,
pastor and I did her hair every week and I did hair out of my house as well. And she knew my husband and I, and she kind of pointed out to me that he
oh,
was a narcissist. And what ended up being crazy was like she came and sat in my seat every single week and she would talk about this with me. She would share stuff on social media with me that she wanted me to see. So she was kind of guiding me into figuring this out.
yeah.
And he caught wind of it and was terrible to the point where when we signed our separation papers, he wanted me to agree to not let her into my salon and sit in my chair.
And
And I
I want
did
to
it.
know. Yeah, I was gonna say, I want to know. So you did you keep her out?
Yeah, but can you hear my dog behind me
Oh,
shaking?
that's
Um,
okay.
but and I did only because she got to be so involved
Yeah.
that she started to trigger me, and she didn't
Oh,
wasn't doing that on purpose, but
yeah.
because she was the one that helped me see what narcissism
Hmm.
was, then I tied all of it to her. And so
Okay.
I would go do her hair at a friend's salon until it got to be too much. And then I just invited her to find someone that
Yeah.
would take care of her a little bit better than me. Because in that point of my life, I was not, I was so consumed with the heartbreak, the confusion, the
Yeah.
delusion that I couldn't put my focus in
Hmm.
my clients. And thank God the ones that stuck with me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think it's hard too, right? When sometimes we don't want to hear things or we're not ready to hear things. I have friends who were in the same situation I was in or we were in and had said to me after the fact. Well, I suspected something, but I don't know if you would have been receptive to hear it. And I said, oh no, I wouldn't have been receptive. I already know. I made so many excuses for him. I don't know if you did that, but
Oh,
I made
yeah.
excuses all the time. He's tired. He doesn't know anybody at this party, so that's why he's being standoffish. Those kinds of things. It's like, why it and people, it's hard to explain to people because it's so multi-layered, but I'm like, if I don't invite him to the party, then he gets mad that I go to the party without him. And then there's consequences with that. Or he'll end up going out with the friend that he says is just a friend. And then she's off in our lives and ruining that. And you know what I'm saying? Like it's like, so taking him with me and maybe he's off in the corner sulking, I don't know, that was just like the lesser of 20 evils.
Well,
Like bring
that
him.
and that ruins your good time.
It does, and that's on purpose,
Oh yeah,
right?
they live to suck the life out of you.
Yes, exactly. It's so terrible. So wait, you were saying earlier something, or maybe when we were talking about it. So was there a friend involved in your story as
Oh
well?
yeah. So this
Okay.
was incredible. So during COVID, we had this big home, had an indoor gym, we had 8 acres, we had all of the things. So a lot of people came to us during COVID, and that is the only time we had friends actually, is because we had the
The space.
amenities.
Yeah.
Yes, the amenities for people. And so this friend, pretty much, she had full access to my house. Like she
Mhm.
was the only friend that I've had in a really long time that is the girlfriend you can talk about anything with, like
Mhm.
anything. The color
Yeah.
of your poop, you can talk about that with her.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun together. But over time, it was almost like she meshed in with me and him.
Mhm.
She admired him for his success and his knowledge. But then I started noticing little things that they became pretty tight. And when her and I would have a falling out, and I don't have falling outs with my friends, I am a
Mhm.
non-confrontational person, but
Mhm.
there have been a few people in my life I think that I've have gut feelings about, and I had a gut feeling about her intentions,
Okay.
but I ignored them because my friend and my husband would never do that to me, right?
Right, of course.
So So I started noticing interactions between them. They would both be texting on their phones at the same time, and I didn't know that they were texting each other, or I did know, but I had no validation, so I just thought you're being I gaslit myself is what I did.
Oh,
You
seriously. No, we definitely do
know,
because also you're in survival mode and you're trying to just, your brain doesn't want to go there. This is what I'm learning is that not only it's almost your subconscious protecting you to not go there.
yeah.
Like because that's gonna blow up your entire life if you think about uh, because I caught him, he changed his passcode and all these things, and I was like, I can't push it right now because my entire life will blow up. And what am I gonna
Yeah.
do?
Well, and the rage that comes along with the questions and the concerns. You can't
Yes.
just come to them and say, "Hey, like I noticed this and I'm not comfortable with it."
Right.
They don't respond to that as being understanding. They
Right.
respond to it with rage to make you crazy and
And
them
that you'll never ask again. You won't
correct.
ask again
And
because you're
that's exactly what happened.
yeah.
But as I'm watching their relationship unfold, like he started doing things for her that he would never do for me. He did in the
Mm.
beginning of our relationship, love bombing. And I started noticing he was doing these things for her. And he made it sound like, oh, this is, she's like my little sister. She needs help. She needs guidance, which she did in her life need help and guidance. But what ended up happening without going into the complete story, because this would be a series of podcasts.
Right.
Um, After COVID, she was in debt with the IRS for a lot of money and getting ready to get kicked out of our apartment. She was
Mhm.
also a hairdresser, so we weren't really able to work then if we worked in a salon.
Right.
And she asked him for help without my knowledge.
Mm.
And she told me, and this was years after we divorced, like a year or two after we divorced, when I had this conversation with her. She told me that he showed up at her door with a stack of cash and that she wouldn't have to pay him back if she had sex with him 15 times.
It's so
This was her.
arbitrary.
This was her telling this to me. I'm not.
Wow.
And she said, I agreed to it. She said, I had to think about
Yeah.
it and I agreed to it. And she said she couldn't do it all of those times because at a certain point, when he would leave, she would just fall apart. And then
Yeah.
she said, and then he would just show up at my house with $500 wanting other little things.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he put her into a financial insecurity to where
Yeah.
he had to rely on him. And then he created a job for her within our company. And in all of this time, she's still being my shoulder to cry on. She's still being that
Wow.
friend that's shopping with me for my new apartment while he's hanging shelves in her garage.
And hanging shelves in her
It's so
garage.
incredible because I just didn't put it together because I didn't want to. I knew if I
That's
did
it.
that my life would have to change and it would be all question marks. And that was terrifying to me.
And that's why people are like, why didn't you just leave? It's like, but your brain is protecting you and that's it, right? It's like if I would have um confronted my ex about this woman, which she wasn't the only one, but she was the one at the end. If I would have confronted him, what would have happened to me? What if he said, "Okay, yep, I want a divorce and I'm leaving you for her." Like the thought of that was devastating. And then that's what happened. And it's like
Mhm.
now I know it's survivable. Was it fun? No. But is it survivable? It sure is. And not to mention, at the point I'm at in my life now, any relationship I have, if somebody ever, like, even if I suspected one thing, I'd be like, get out, like, bye, go have them. I don't care that much. Like,
And we
it's
would
not,
never do that before. We would never.
no, no. And so that's really good. Good for us,
I
you
know
know?
it's so funny because I talk a lot about gratitude
Hmm.
because I have a growth mindset. Like
Yes.
like I'm in a relationship now with an amazing man that I had been friends with for a long time prior to all of this. And he gets annoyed because I am Miss Silver Lining. I'm going to find the silver lining in everything.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to make up a story to make something bad something good. And it drives him crazy, but I can't stop doing it.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful for all of the experiences that I have went through and
Hmm.
the people that hurt me, they did me a favor, actually.
Right. Yeah.
They did me a favor because now I appreciate and I'm more mindful about the people that I surround myself with.
Right. And that was the thing for me. It's like seeing the friends who stuck around and then the friends who didn't. And like, I've done a lot of like holistic therapy and different things like that, right? Because as I was learning, it wasn't just about going for a walk and talk therapy. I needed so many other things. I did hypnosis and everything else. I've done a million things. And just calling what she's a friend now, but calling my friend going, so I get no friends. That's it. And she's like, "Nope, it's okay. They're coming. Don't worry." And then had to stop and look at my life and go, "Oh, these friends over here haven't gone anywhere." And
Mhm.
I even had one say, "Hey, you told me your story and I haven't left." And she wasn't trying to be like rude or she just wanted me to see it. She's like, "You told me everything and I didn't go anywhere." And I was like, "You're right." Because when we change, the people around us have to face their own. It's almost like a mirror, right? They have to face their without us saying a word. Like
Yeah,
as
they
I'm
have.
growing and learning and setting healthy boundaries, they may not like it because the people who don't like it are the ones who benefited from you not having boundaries. That was my experience.
Exactly. Exactly. You're not wrong.
Tell me when you're talking about, I love the idea of your podcast. So you want to talk about, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly how you worded it. Like, oh, okay, lifestyle and health, because you started to realize that it wasn't just about being pretty or whatever, right? So tell me about that. Because it's so interesting because we are so societalized that it has to be perfect, it has to be whatever. And I intentionally try to go on social media when I look like a hobo, which is most of the time,
Mhm.
because it's either this or my hair's in, I'm in a sweatshirt, my hair's in a ponytail. And I have a video out right now and it's doing well. And I look like trash, seriously. But I didn't care because I'm like, I have to just get the message out there and I had to get over myself to do that kind of stuff. So,
It's so funny because I've worked being a hairdresser.
yeah,
My like since I was 19, I've always helped women on the outside feel good about themselves.
yeah.
And as they were in my chair, I loved talking to them like in depth. My clients, I had closer relationships than I do with some of my good friends because I
Hmm.
saw them every 4 to 6 weeks. And Reauthenticated, my whole platform is about, and this is something that I realized after everything was how much, first of all, when I was going to my therapist and she finally asked me, "Who is Angie and what do you want to do?"
Wow.
I had no idea. But
Yeah.
I did realize that my entire life, and the narcissism wasn't just for my marriage, it also came from
Mhm.
my childhood. But I have sacrificed my character and integrity for acceptance and love my whole entire life. And the the relationship I am in that I'm in now,
Mhm.
the reason why we were friends for so long is because he was so cool and he was so authentic. And I felt safe and comfortable being myself around
Yeah.
him. I didn't feel that around my husband at the time.
Right.
So, and at the end of the day, like we laugh and we're we're weird. I love being weird. It's awesome
Yes.
being different and weird, and I wasn't able to be that.
No.
And so, Reauthenticated is about helping people reconnect to their authentic self and build confidence. And it's not just from nutrition and physical activity, which I'm going to teach about that, but
Yeah.
it's also about healing from past traumas and
That's
bringing the spiritual aspect into it because through my whole thing and I went about 2 years while healing from the narcissistic abuse and trying to navigate a healthy relationship, trying to heal all of this shit at once. Can I say shit?
yes, you can.
Okay, trying to
I'm
because
rated
that's
E for
what it
everyone.
is. It was just a big pile of shit. And so
Yes.
I'm trying to heal all of it at once while learning how to trust someone. And one of the hardest things was communication
Yeah.
because I was so afraid to talk about my feelings and still sometimes I am
Yeah. Do you
because
still get that anxiety? Like I would get such anxiety before I had to talk to my ex about anything. It didn't matter if it was just like
yes,
it did not matter what it was about. I had anxiety and then he'd say, "Well, you know you can talk to me about anything." But then the minute you do,
it's thrown in
they
the face.
yeah, it's thrown in your face and it comes back to, bite you in the butt later and they hold it against you and you're just, oh gosh, you think that way? That's horrible. And those kinds of things. And so I totally get it that you
Yeah,
you were
disregarded and unvalidated was so
oh
you
yeah.
just shut up. You A friend told his girlfriend and used me as an example. You need to do what Angie does and put your head down and close your mouth. And I remember getting so ticked off that he said that because I'm like, I don't do that. But 10 years later, as I'm going through this, I'm like, I absolutely did
Yes.
that. I did
Like
that. And so when my guy and I get into these conversations, because he can tell when something's wrong, he
mhm.
wants me to share. But
Wow.
I still get those little flickers of anxiety because I think,
Hmm.
well, what if I share that's really on my mind? Is he going to reject me? What if he, knows
Hmm.
all the things I'm thinking and feeling? Is it going to be too much? You have that
Yeah.
little part of you that's scared if you are 100% real, authentic. It's going to be a work in progress for the rest of my life, as it is for all of us.
Yeah.
But you always have that little insecurity that, oh my gosh, what if I say this and they don't like it? And then I have to feel rejection again.
It's so scary and it well, it does keep us I mean, that whole thing, look, we've been traumatized, from the abuse. And so that's definitely something to work on. And I love that then you get those safe opportunities to share.
Mhm.
I had gone on a date and the guy was asking me questions. And then when I told him things, he didn't make fun of me and he didn't tell me it was stupid. He asked me other questions and said, "Oh, that's so interesting." And I was like, "Is this what it's like to talk to somebody and they're nice?" I just didn't even,
Yeah.
it's so sad, but it's so true. But if we've been trained a certain way for so many years, and so it's interesting because I had a conversation on a different episode about people say to me, I want to get back to who I was. And it's like, but like you said, I felt the same way. It's like, I've been doing this garbage for all my life. Like, I thought I didn't know myself for 33 years. I actually didn't know myself for 55 years. I didn't know who Laura was. Who the hell's Laura? No, I didn't know who I
That
was.
that just gave me chills because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like before him and I got together, I had this little independent kind of kind of a backbone, but not enough of a one
Yeah.
to to stand up for myself. But
Yeah.
growing up, my stepfather was a narcissist and my
Mm,
stepmother was a narcissist,
okay.
which both of them influenced our parent, not influenced our parents. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like I went through my life thinking, why don't you love me enough? Why is this
Right.
person more important than me? I'm your child.
Yeah.
Why are the drugs more important than me? Why
Yeah.
is the alcohol and all of that more important than me? I went through my life with a lot of resentment for my parents until I went through this experience
Yeah.
because I realized that the narcissist then had a hold of them. So not only did I
Yes.
feel unimportant to my parents, and I don't know if this is a word, I've narcissized
Yeah.
by my step parents,
Hmm.
it shaped me into an adult that left me a perfect victim
Yes, exactly.
being
That
in the
well,
kind of
we're attracted to that same thing that we felt in childhood, even if we don't know what that is. There's so many things that I see from my ex from that were things from my childhood. And then also my ex was built out of trauma, and his behavior and narcissism was built out of his own trauma. So it's just a perfect storm. And until you can work on yourself, which I love that you're helping women see that. And that's what I try to do here too, is like the reason I started my podcast was people didn't want me to talk about it. So I said, okay, let me get a microphone. Be right back.
yeah,
you know?
let me tell everybody. You don't have to hear it.
Well, because I didn't understand. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't think I should talk about it? Like, no, just forgive him, move on. It'll be fine. You'll be okay. And is it really abuse if he didn't hit you? I'm like, as a matter of fact, it is. And so I did start talking about it. I started talking about things that people or society says you shouldn't talk about. So
Mhm.
now it's so freeing, and I'm sure you feel this way too. When I go to say something, I don't have that anxiety. I'm
Mhm.
not scared. Even if I say something that's stupid, because I totally believe in you fall down, you get back up, and you apologize if you did something you shouldn't have done, and those kinds of things. But the relationships we were in were based on manipulation. And so
Mhm.
you weren't allowed to make a mistake. And I just remember being told you should not talk, you should wait to talk, make sure you have the perfect words, and then you can speak. And I'm like, no, that's not, I mean, I would do that. And I actually got to the point where I didn't talk at all, um,
Same.
which is, it's so common. And now I'm this loud, obnoxious person. And it's like with a microphone. And it's so wild to me to think back. I'm like, but that's what they do to you. They make you teeny tiny, try to be small, smaller still. Come on, they don't even want you, but they're such big pussies.
Control.
They won't leave.
Oh wow, I knew we
Sorry.
were going there. Nope, it's fine. I want to you said something that I want to say something back. And it is, your friends that didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
The the hard part about coming out of the narcissistic relationship or any of it, they don't
yeah,
want you to talk while you're in it. And then
Yeah.
when you figure out that talking doesn't do you any good, you know, you
Yeah.
can't talk to them. You can't have your closure. You have to go completely no contact. And what are you supposed to do? Keep it all in and shove it down?
Well, and that's what people do, and then what we do is we end up angry. And this is how women snap, because the minute I found out, so I had been healing, and the minute I found out that he had been dating this girl, nobody was talking to me. Like my family knew. Everybody kept it a secret because I needed to be protected. Let me
Mhm.
tell you, I needed a little bit of time to start healing. But let me tell you, I was re-victimized immediately. And I said to myself, oh, I see how women snap, because I literally could have gone and killed them both. And I don't want to say that on tape or anything on tape, like I'm 100 years old. But anyway, I literally felt that way. And so that's what happens when we don't get to talk about it. We have to talk about it. We have to get it out. That's why I say things and people get uncomfortable. And so this is what I learned, is that it's their own discomfort. The friends
Mhm.
who didn't want to hear about it, it's because they were uncomfortable. They didn't know what to do with the information. Like, oh, he's a narcissist and he's dating somebody else, and I don't know what to do with that, because they're not healthy or they're not in a position to talk about it.
Yeah, but we don't get the opportunity to talk about our feelings with the narcissist because it
Nope.
doesn't do any good.
Nope.
They're it's not gonna be valid. They're going to disregard it.
Yes.
And I remember so many times after learning about what narcissism was and him talking to me, I started to see the crocodile tears. Once I got into a
Oh my
relationship and
gosh.
he found out that he didn't have control over me
Oh
anymore,
my gosh.
he wanted the control back. And I wouldn't give it to him. And part of me felt sorry for him. You
Yeah.
know, he actually locked me in his office for hours with the crocodile tears. It was never about her, it was always about you. And I felt nothing. I
Yeah.
didn't feel anything. Where if a stranger cried in front of me, I could completely feel all of their pain.
Yeah.
But he was so empty at that point, and nothing that he said was the truth, that I couldn't feel anything for him. I just bit my jaw and I couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then when clients sat in my chair and they wanted to talk about my life and what all was going on, and of course, it was the best gossip ever to hear of all the crazy stuff this
Yeah.
person did, then that allowed me to talk about it. But it also gave me a ton of anxiety. And I would come home from
Yeah.
work defeated and emotionally and mentally exhausted, which took away from my relationship,
Yeah.
my new relationship. And so this is where I'm at. Oh,
And
I just said your podcast name on.
that's how I came up with it. It's exactly it. That's exactly how I came up with it, is because I was talking to a friend, and she wanted to hear the update all the time. She was a safe friend. And I'd just be like, yeah, that's just where I'm at. And then I stopped one day and I go, wait, is that something? I
Mhm.
literally, it was like, is that something? I had no idea what it was. I wrote it down, my podcast. And that's what I was doing with her. I was coaching with her. She's a friend. And I told her, I said, I want to dream again, because, they squash you so hard, right? They squash you down. There was no dreaming. Every time I tried to dream about anything, I always had a like desire to help women and show them their value and all that. It's like I forgot to think about that for myself. But every time I would start dreaming about anything, he'd be like, "Oh no, you can't do that. No." Like, "Oh, and it's embarrassing if you try to be on social media." And it's whatever. Like he would tell me all the time, "You want to get on a stage and speak to women? That's embarrassing. You shouldn't do that." And so when I was working with my friend who's a coach, and I said, I need to dream again. Don't even know what that means, but let's do it. And she's like,
Mhm.
okay. And I came up with the podcast
That's amazing.
and the name.
I feel like when you talk, we were married to the same person.
Oh, I'm telling you, I have talked to so many people, and I'm like, they're all the freaking same. And so that's why we need to do this work and why we need to talk about it, because there's a pattern. And it's because even though they're not diagnosed, it's a, disorder. And so there's a pattern. And I can tell you, like, this is going to happen next. This is, what he did to me, he did to his next wife. Like,
Mhm.
he groomed me to, in front of his last fiance's face. And then he groomed this one in front of my face, like in front of my face. And
Same.
I'd sit there and go, I don't, it's too flirty. Like I'd go home and go like, you guys are too flirty. I don't get it. It's not okay with me. Oh, I'm just a flirty guy. I'm so sorry. Oh, I don't mean anything by it. I never trusted him. Never. And I just kept saying, but this is the thing. By that point, I was like 25 years in, 30 years in. What am I doing
Mhm.
at that point? I'm doing nothing about it, doing not one thing. I've already been trained. My brain is in full survival mode. I'm not doing one thing about it. He could have told me, well, he did tell me certain times. I'd go like, "Hey, where you been?" "Oh, I was out to dinner with a bunch of friends." I said, "Just her?" He'd go, "Yeah, just her." And what did I do about it? Not one thing. I did nothing because then my world would blow up. And then eventually I blew it up so that I could get out.
Yeah, that's awesome than the alternative, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing is for me, I had the reverse discard where he said, we should think about not being together anymore, whatever, if this is the way our life is going to be. And I'm like, why do I have to tell you that I'm done? Because that's what he expected of me. He expected me to tell him. He was treating me like garbage at this point. And that's the pattern. That's the thing is that's the pattern. They stop talking to you, completely minimize, don't, like he was not even saying one word to me anymore. So that's why to tell people this, to tell people these things, you will survive.
Oh, 100%. And you're
It's
going to come out. I get excited for people that
yes.
actually start going through this,
Hmm.
even in their worst pain, because
I
it can only get
know.
better from here, you
Yeah.
know?
when
And
when I see those toxic relationships and people reach out to me or whatever, and I'm talking to them, they're like, I'm gonna go. I'm already going. I'm like set to leave in 3 weeks or whatever it is. I'm the same way. I get so excited because like, oh my gosh, freedom. The world
100,
is look, are you gonna be in pain? Yes, but look, it's horrible. We're not promised tomorrow and we don't know what's on the other side of us leaving. But it's gonna be better than that, I promise you.
yeah, and they don't see it because their whole worth is based around the validation of the abuser,
Yes.
because the abuser has broke them down so much that that's the only way. If one little way to go, one little,
Yeah.
comment that's positive
Yeah.
is is like such a rush
Yeah.
for someone that is that insecure. And that's what they do. They break you down to be
Right.
so insecure so they can control you.
Right.
And then, geez, it's like when someone can find their way out of that
Hmm.
and find themselves, and this is the biggest thing for me right now, is I finally learned how to love myself and not seek
Yeah.
for validation in other people.
Yeah.
I don't have to look perfect. I don't have to look pretty all the time. I can get on social media and do a
Yeah.
reel or a story I did it this morning in my nightshirt because I
Yeah.
had a cool thought and I didn't want to
Right.
put the effort into sharing it. And by the time I did, I would forget about what I wanted to share and I wouldn't get the opportunity. So now instead of everything being so perfect and so polished,
Hmm.
I get to just be me and be out there. And for women to understand that as they go through the brokenness and the healing and the growth and all of that, there is something so much better on the other side.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't jump into a relationship right away, which I did because I knew the person that I was spending time with was amazing.
Hmm.
And if I gave up that opportunity, I would probably kick myself in the butt for
Hmm.
it on the same like I I didn't want to be in a relationship right away. I was only
Yeah.
6 months out of this
Hmm.
before I got into another relationship. But I've been never been single. My whole since I was a
Yeah.
teenager, I have
Yeah.
never been single
Me
and I
too.
was really enjoying getting to know myself without someone else's opinion or validating me,
Yeah.
right?
I love
So,
that you say that it's unlearning those patterns, right? That you talk about that because we've been societalized that way. And then with the narcissist, if they're giving you that breadcrumb and then it gives you that dopamine hit of like, oh, everything's good right now. He's being nice to me. But it's like you don't realize you're living off of scraps.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
living off of tiny breadcrumbs. It's like go out there and buy your own loaf of bread because they're just
Right.
feeding you breadcrumbs. And I have friends that are older than I am and still struggle with their whatever, loving themselves. I'm
Mhm.
never going to say really appearance because if you look at them, they're beautiful people. Like who cares, right? Like they're beautiful and they just don't even like themselves. And it's like, well, who did that to you? Whose voice is in your head? That voice could be our mother's voice. It's somebody else's voice that was like, oh, you look terrible today, or you look fat, or whatever the situation is.
Mhm.
And we at some point came in agreement with that voice, and we have to like not be in agreement with that anymore. We're allowed
We
to
gave it
just,
so much power.
we did.
Give people so much power over ourselves. What if we stop doing that and just, you know, you tell yourself. I used to tell myself all the time with my ex, I would joke and be cute and say that I'm effing awesome,
Yeah.
right? The more I said it, the more I noticed he started taking
Yeah.
that away. He wouldn't say, no, you're not, or whatever. He started in heavier on creating the insecurities.
Right. They start finding ways to make you feel bad or whatever. The biggest thing for me that I remember, and I know this is probably just the narcissistic trait, whatever, is that always I could not make a mistake. I was not allowed to make mistakes. And I couldn't, and then I got to the point where I couldn't make decisions because if I made the wrong decision,
Mhm.
according to him, because it's always the wrong decision anyway, then I would be ridiculed for that and all that. It's so like you just get to be like, who wants to live like that? There's people who are living in marriages for years and years and years, decades, and you're like, you're not happy. You don't need a diagnosis. Do you want to live like this for the rest of your life? I say run for your life. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
But when you were in it, if someone said that to you, you weren't
Yeah,
going
I
anywhere.
wasn't going to. And that's why the whole thing that makes me laugh is I used to teach women how to value themselves and love themselves. And I'm like, I forgot to, take that information for myself. I forgot to think about that for myself. And so that's the key, right? Is when we love ourselves enough, we don't put up with that garbage. I'm I just want people to know that there's hope. You don't have to live like that. And I know people get to midlife like me and then go, well, now what? I'm like, oh my God, you have half your life.
Yeah.
Like, let's go dream.
The funny thing is, it's so common when I see things with my friends, my younger
Yeah.
friends, like in unhappy relationships and not necessarily narcissistic relationships,
Yeah.
but they're not happy with one another and they stay in their situation, which if you have kids, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't have children. I would have never. I'm so glad I didn't have
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
Um, but, I'm someone that, like I said, I don't like conflict.
Yeah.
So the relationship I'm in now, do we have disagreements? Yes. Do we have little things about one another that are annoying?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
But we look past it because there's a lot more good. And I want to do my best to navigate a healthy relationship because I've
Right.
spent so much of my life in an unhealthy relationship
Right.
that when I see how people communicate with one another, how they talk about each other when the other isn't around, it makes
Yes.
me sad.
Mm-hmm. I
It
know,
makes
me
me
too.
sad because there can be so much more if
Mhm.
we learn how to communicate with one another in a way that wasn't demeaning or devaluing, which
Right.
is, I would have never really even thought of it this way had I not been in a relationship that was very demeaning and devaluing.
Yeah.
It makes me appreciate, and this is why I think we go through the things we go through, but it really makes me appreciate what I have now and work towards making it better. But I think a lot of people just they go on autopilot in life
Yes. Uh-huh.
and then they sit there until one day it explodes and they realize you have one life. And that was one thing that really woke me up after all of this is I just spent my 20s and 30s, like my funnest years
Right. Yes.
in this, like you did.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, now I have to make the best of the rest of it.
Yes. And it's so great. It's like to be able to get out, not to mention like so many of my health problems went away.
Hmm.
Like, and did you know I'm not a yelly, screamy person anymore? I'm not angry. I mean, it's amazing. Like I was so angry all the time. And I just realized he was always pushing my buttons because he installed them and he pushed me, pushed my boundaries, all the things. And I didn't know how to do anything. And then when I started learning boundaries is when I started to understand what was going on. And when I got out, I was like, amazing how much peace I have. That is worth the price of admission there. To have peace in your life and in your home, like that's it. Because with peace, you will move forward so much differently than with chaos or anxiety or fear.
100%. You were explaining the buttons that he installed.
Yes.
And in my mind, I think you need to make a Laura shaped remote control, have all the buttons on
He
it.
had all the, but yes, seriously. No, I mean, because the people who are closest to you who push your buttons, a lot of times they installed them. Like they
Yeah.
know, they trained you to get upset over certain things. I mean, I don't know how much I had reactive abuse and reactive rage with him all the time. With him just going on and on and on. And I'd be like, I'm not upset about what you're saying I'm upset about. I don't even know what you're talking about. What seems like you're upset. Well, I'm not, but I'm not. Till we get to the point where you're
You get
yelling and
upset.
screaming, you get upset and they go, see, I knew you were upset. It's like, oh my gosh. I didn't know what that was. And I didn't know how to, I went to so much therapy to be like, how do I explain myself without them getting mad at me? And nobody really caught on to that that was reactive abuse. Um, because that can come out of nowhere. You could be just sitting watching TV. Oh, you look upset. Nope, I'm not upset. I don't know what I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, it sounds like you're upset.
Well,
It's
I
like,
didn't have that, but when I had my reactive rage against him, it
yeah.
took a very lot to push me there, but I didn't do it a lot because when I did get there, that's when the physical abuse would come in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then it would be my fault. And it always involved food, which I found funny.
Yeah, mine too. That's so funny. Yeah,
It was
food.
he was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the counter one day and he was pushing my buttons.
Yeah.
And finally, I snapped and I threw my hand up and I smashed his peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's when the physical abuse came in. And there was a few times, not a lot, but there were a few times, and it all came from me speaking, me getting a little bit of courage to speak up for
Yeah.
myself. And
Right.
so that shut me down.
Right. And you have to think about, I think about the people. Okay, so some of the things that are physical abuse that don't necessarily mean they're touching you. They will throw things around you. Okay, they'll
Hmm.
throw things near you. Oh, they'll punch the wall around you. And let me tell you, they will escalate. You're next.
Yeah.
If they're hurting the animals or something like that, like they want to hurt you, so they have to hurt something else. And I always tell people, I'm like, No, like somebody had, I'm not even going to say what it was, but they told me a story. And I said, If you can get out, you have to get out. You will be next. Like what he
Mhm.
did, you will be next. And she's like, Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah. Like, and especially if you're not married, my God, run for your life. This is the thing is that we all have tools available. I'm not saying that finding therapy and things like that is all equal in this world, but there's so many resources out there. And if we don't deal with our crap, we will bleed all over people who never cut us. And
Mhm.
so, don't you like, what do you want for your life? I was an angry person and I didn't realize it wasn't all just him, but that was part of it. It's like I had to figure out, why am I angry? And he was part of it, but why am I angry? What was
Yeah.
it? And so that's where when I worked on loving myself and all those things, healing myself from everything,
It's
from
a
my
lot of
life.
work.
It's a lot of work,
It's
but it's
so much.
good work.
I love it. I absolutely love it because every step that I take in the right direction, all I want to do is use it as a tool to help other people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of just do my job in this world and serve.
Hmm. And it's so good because it's a ripple effect. I just see like the environment I'm in now. I used to walk around thinking everybody was terrible and horrible and all that. And now I walk around, I have beautiful friends around me who we all go through crap, but everybody has a good attitude, or they have tools, or they want to come talk about it and like, what do you think? And I am so happy about that because it's like I can be my true self, and I have such good friends that I can be my true self with. And even friends, I have one friend who just looked at me one time, is like, don't you get sick of yourself when you're like that? Because I can be very type A and, like controlling. And I'm like, yeah, I do get sick of myself. But it's okay to look at ourselves and self-reflect and be like,
Well, you get pretty proud of yourself from
yeah,
what you've overcome and what you went through.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's so good on the other side, right?
It really is. And you want to, for instance, I go to the gym every morning, and the cleaning guy at the gym used to clean my salons. He's such a nice guy.
Mm.
And everybody that talks to him loves him. And I would have never done this before, but every time someone walks away from a conversation with him and passes me, they say, I just love him. I just
Oh,
love him. He's so great. And just walking up to him and saying, I got to tell you something.
yeah.
And he's like, what? And I was like, I don't know one person in this whole building that doesn't love you. And that just brightened up his day. I want
Yes.
to brighten up people's days
Yes.
because I know how it makes me feel.
Right.
And I just want to spread that. And like I said, I'm grateful that I have this mindset coming out of what I've come out of to want to do that instead
Yeah.
of being a victim to my circumstance.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people that will do that. They'll be a victim of their circumstance. They will be angry,
Yeah.
salty people and want to. I saw it today on a comment that I made on someone's
Mm.
post. You know, they just want to be an angry and salty person
Yeah.
and throw out negative things out there. And at the end of the day, I have to know that they're probably going through some. This is how I justify it.
Yeah.
Miss Silver Lining here.
Right.
They're probably going through something they haven't healed yet because hurt people.
Yes, they
And
do.
instead of it taking my power from me, I just have to pray for them or I wish they have an amazing day or something great happens to them. And I put that in there. I'm like, cool, thanks for the negative comment. Hope something amazing happens for you today.
Wow,
To
you're
know
so
like
nice.
to know like that wasn't necessary. And you know what? I wish something good happens for you because you obviously need it.
Yeah, seriously. I had somebody on YouTube comment something like, I was going to watch your video, but then you just wouldn't shut up and let the person answer the question. And I was like, well, at least you gave it a try.
Thanks for your time.
I was like, what happened? And so this one girl that is also a podcaster, I said, what do you do with these negative comments? Like the trolls will come out to play, on Instagram. And she said, I sometimes just ask them, like, what do you mean by that? But a lot of times they don't even come back to answer that.
They
They're
don't.
just like going through, like shitting on everybody. And, it's like, that's okay. And I totally get it. And I try to do like, what do you mean by that? Because I do have people who like, and I sometimes have to say, you got all that from a 10-second video, or, it's like,
I know. I just have to kill them with kindness because I let it make me shake one day. Someone made a comment when I was talking about you can either be a victim to your circumstance or inspiration to your story.
Mhm.
And it really offended some people and that I didn't know. And when you click on their pages, they
Yeah.
have like 2 followers and they don't post anything. So they basically just get on there to ruin people's days.
Yeah.
But they went off on me about how I don't know what PTSD is and all this stuff. And they didn't know anything about me. And I let it get me so upset. And then I just sat there and thought, these people don't know me. Why am I
Right.
letting it
Right.
affect me? And at the end of the day, she's obviously going through something if she's telling me I don't know what PTSD is. So I'm just going to take a moment for this person and pray for them or send them good thoughts or send them good energy
Yeah.
and then move about my day so it doesn't take away from me.
Yeah. I mean, we can't let it get us down, and we have to know that everything that's said about us isn't always just because someone says it doesn't make it true. And that used to derail me. And now, because I have friends who are like, somebody commented this terrible thing on your Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to worry about it. It's okay. Like, I'm not worried about it. Um, and sometimes I leave it, sometimes I don't. The ones that are vile, like those get blocked and everything. But the ones that are just like, oh, you probably gave up on your marriage and whatever. And I just be like, I mean, I guess you could think that way, except
Wow.
after 33 years, I can't imagine I actually gave up.
I
But
love when
thanks.
people share unwanted opinions.
I
It's
know.
amazing.
It's like, how did you figure that out in a 10-second video? But all right, well, I think it's time we have to say goodbye. My gosh, this was such a good conversation, and I'm excited for your podcast and for all the work you're going to be doing. It's so great. I love how you've turned your pain into a purpose.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you.
Where can everybody find you when they go looking for you?
They can find me. I do have a website. It is reauthenticated.com where I post blogs. And instead of it being just a sterile
Hmm.
informational website, it's telling my story because
Oh,
I
awesome.
believe stories will help people relate to you and feel seen. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Angie Marie underscore reauthenticated
Awesome.
and on Facebook with just plain Angie Marie.
And we'll put everything in the show notes. So, yay.
All right,
And for
perfect. Thank
me,
you so
that's where
much.
I'm at podcast.com. That's where I'm at podcast on all the socials everywhere. That's just where I get the word out for now. But that's where I'm at podcast.com. You'll find all my information, my book, my everything. You'll find everything there. Everything you ever wanted to know about me, we're afraid to ask,
Whether you want to know or not.
whether you want to know or not. And I'm working on a blog too because there's so much good information. And I'm like, it's just sometimes it's too much even for social media. So I'm like, let's do a blog.
Yeah.
Get all that good narcissist information out there. Well, thanks so much for being here, Angie. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much for having me.
All right. All right, guys. And if anything resonated with you, like you have to go and you have to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and go touch all the buttons and,
And share us with all your friends.
share if this episode resonated with you, share with everybody because podcast land has to know that you like us for us to be able to keep doing this work. And then go to social media, touch all the buttons, let us know you listened, and we appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you next time.